Welcome to Grounded with Jon Tester and Maritza Giorgio. Hey, we have another tractor episode, it looks like.
Yeah, we're gonna see if we can make this work with the old Booker. I'm yeah, I'm on the tractor. We're working some ground. Yeah. I
Well,
mean I could make some correlation between checks and balances if you'd like, but probably not.
so he's been doing that. If you've been following along on our Substack page, the senator has been recording several videos from the field, from the tractor, talking about, the farm, but also relating it to what's going on in politics. And people love it. They love the tractor content.
It's always good. Tractors are always good. Tractor's good. Okay. Yeah.
Hey,
Beats the hell out of using horses. Yes, it does.
I want to show you something I picked up. You'll be really proud of me. Some postage stamps.
Hey, that's great. You know, are they for the right amount? That's the question.
Oh, they're forever. The backstory here is, folks, I had to send Senator Tester something in the mail, and he didn't get it, and he didn't get it, and guess what? I forgot to put a stamp on it.
Yeah, it wasn't the post office's fault this time.
Not this time. I'll take the ownership on that. Okay, so today we have one of your buddies joining us for episode 35. Can you believe we're on episode 35?
Episode 35 with the Honorable Cory Booker,
Senator
All-Amer
Cory Booker.
All-American football player out of New Jersey and now U.S. Senator.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm so excited to talk to you guys together because I have followed along of this like bromance you have for years, and it's hilarious. And what you guys release to the public is hilarious. So I'm guessing when it's behind closed doors, it's even funnier.
yeah, it's pretty bad, actually. Yeah,
All right. Well, we're
yeah,
gonna have a good chat with him. Of course, he did the, 25-hour, 5-minute filibuster, breaking the record for the longest speech ever on the Senate floor. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that bill that you guys are both such big fans of, and all kinds of stuff. I have some fun planned too. But let's get to some headlines, should we? Let's start with this just horrific news out of Texas. At least 95 people are dead after devastating flash floods hit central Texas last week. 27 campers, young children, and counselors from an all-girls summer camp along the Guadalupe River died. 10 campers are still unaccounted for. More flooding threats are coming in. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer is calling for an investigation because there are some reports. The nearby mayor said he never received a warning, and Schumer is calling for an investigation into whether vacancies at the National Weather Service and staffing shortages contributed to deaths there. Meanwhile, the White House said that the National Weather Service did its job. This was an act of God. Either way, just horrible news.
well, first of all, for those folks who lost their lives, any lives that are lost is painful, but man, oh man, I really feel bad for those parents who sent their kids off to camp and they end up dying because of a weather event, any event. It's just my heart goes out to all of them. I got to tell you, look, Noah, predicting weather is something that we should never take for granted. Weather's very unpredictable, and the Weather Service does an amazing job predicting these storms coming in. Now, I live in a place where it is hard for me to believe that you could get that much rain that would do that much damage and kill that many people. But there are other parts of this country where this happens. And if you get a warning, if you get some kind of heads up, you can get the hell out of there and get for higher ground and save lives, save families, save communities. But look, I mean, we saw what happened when Doge came in and did what they're going to do, and the president talked about quitting funding for the Weather Service. And look, this last bill that went through cut all of the money for renewable energy projects. When I always thought this is supposed to be an all of the above kind of thing, but evidently it's all of the above unless it's renewable energy. So and by the way, the upside of that is that the weather uncertainty is is promoted by the amount of CO2 in the air, which is created by energy that's created from, carbon-based products. So I feel really, really, really bad for those families and what's happening and the lives that are lost. But the way you can stop this is with prevention, and getting a heads up on these storms is a big deal. I've got a little weather radio right there on that camera, right there on that radio. There's a weather station. It comes out of Haber, Montana. It's real staticky. You can hardly hear it. But if you listen, they'll give you some good weather information. And I don't know what happened in Texas. I don't know if it has to do with people getting laid off or not. I don't know. But if it was, they need to fix it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, it's just unimaginable. You think about sending your kids anywhere and you trust that they'll come home okay. And to have them not, no matter what happened, it's just devastating. We send all of our love to the families and the communities in Texas, and we will have some more at the end of this episode on how you can help because I know so many people feel helpless in situations like these, and it feels good to try to do something. So we will give you some more information at the end of this episode. In other news, a whole lot of letters to read on Truth Social today because the president is posting letters to the leaders of other countries that announced new tariff rates in an abrupt re-escalation. So these letters warn that the rates could change at any time, and that if the country raises their own tariffs, whatever rate they choose will be added onto whatever the US is charging. So he started with Japan and Korea, imposing both with 25% tariffs starting August 1st, and then, of course, warned if you add any of your own tariffs, we'll add that amount to 25%.
Yeah, to what end? I mean, what are we doing here? Or hell, even the price of fireworks is more expensive this year because of the tariffs.
Did
Look,
you buy
I mean,
fireworks?
no, I didn't because I'm too cheap. I wouldn't buy it when they were cheaper, and I'm not going to buy it when there's additional costs on. But besides that, it's dry, and I don't want to cause fires. But the bottom line is that what are we doing here? I mean, this started out we were going to hold China accountable, and now it's um, everybody's getting hurt. But more importantly, it's the American consumer that's really getting hurt. Other countries don't pay these tariffs, and that's what the president doesn't understand. These tariffs are paid by the American people. These tariffs are the biggest tax increase on the American people, period. And the rich people don't care because they got their tax break in the big beautiful bill, but everybody else got peanuts. And now the tariffs continue to escalate this war, and the losers are going to end up being the American people. I just don't see how this thing ends well for the United States consumers.
Do you think he doesn't understand how they work, or do you think he does?
Oh, I don't think he understands how they work. I just don't. I think he's being honest. He thinks that other countries pay for him. They don't. And it's a pretty much a proven fact. And anybody that tries to tell him that, I don't think he believes him. So, but I don't know. That's a better question for the president.
Okay, so talking about the president here, his feud with Elon Musk continues. We're back to talking about Jeffrey Epstein also. So on Sunday, Trump said that Elon Musk has gone completely off the rails, becoming a train wreck. And that came after Musk said he set up a new third party called the American Party to compete against the Democratic and Republican Party. Of course, they disagreed on the spending bill. And then Elon started trolling the administration over Jeffrey Epstein again, saying, hey, nobody's been arrested yet. Meanwhile, the Justice Department came out Monday saying Jeffrey Epstein did not have a client list, case closed. They're not releasing any more documents about this. But that goes against what the Attorney General Pam Bondi said earlier this year. She said the list of clients was sitting on her desk in a Fox News interview.
So, look, there's been talk of a third party. There's been runs of third party. H. Ross Perot had a third party, ran when Clinton and Bush ran. The difference here is that Musk has got enough money, he might be able to make this happen.
Hmm.
And, there's a lot of disenfranchised Republicans and a lot of disenfranchised Democrats. If he gets the right, if he gets the right platform and allows these places a place to land, it could happen. Could happen. That's all I'm saying. Could happen.
Oh, would you join the American Party?
Depends. I doubt it, but it depends what their platform is. I mean, I'll applaud any party that's going to work for working folks and for folks who are having a hard time making ends meet. And there might be new ideas come out of this. It could be a net positive. I'm not going to say it's going to be all negative. It could be positive. What the hell? And like I said, Musk's got enough money. He could probably make this happen.
We had Miles Taylor on last week, former chief of staff for Department of Homeland Security, and he said he thinks that Musk might save the United States from Trump. So
I don't know about that, but because he's it's already happening. If you take a look at what this tariff thing is, and take a look at the big beautiful deal that wasn't beautiful at all. Take a look at how due process has been ignored, how the courts have been ignored. Take a look at. I'm not going to blame Congress and the president. The Congress is AWOL uh, by their own demise. Because truth is they don't even count anymore, and hopefully someday they will. But right now they sure in hell don't, and haven't for the last 6 months.
so how's it going doing this from the tractor so far?
I picked up about every third word you've said, so this is perfect.
So it's like normal, but
It's like normal.
just less selective. That's when
Yeah,
you
you got it.
great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on a tractor with background noise. I don't know if you can hear it or not. I assume you can.
Actually, it's
And
pretty
you know,
clear.
on a phone, and I got no hearing aid. So what could go wrong?
What could go wrong? It's just your friend, the United States Senator Cory Booker.
Yeah, but that's all right. If I don't have to listen to him, it's probably a good thing.
You look like your face is all thin, man. What did you lose the Senate and drop a hundy?
Yeah, I dropped a hundy. I've dropped about 55, double nickel.
Wow. It's
He
that
looks
just goes to
good.
show you. A lot of my friends leave their stressful jobs and suddenly get really healthy. Stress is such a contributor to weight gain, weight holding on. So
Yeah,
I'm not surprised that you've dropped a double nickel.
yeah. Well, and the other thing is, it's not exactly the healthiest lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Jumping
Yeah,
time zones, jumping on planes, not getting sleep, all things that work against weight loss, man.
yeah. We
All
better we
those.
let's get this goddamn going because this kind of
I thought we're
conversation.
recording. I thought this
This,
was a podcast.
no,
If
I
you did
gotta
a
introduce you.
lifestyle podcast,
You know what?
I
You
mean,
can
you could
you
literally
put
be the biggest loser.
Marisa.
I mean,
Uh,
that's what the podcast should be titled, The Biggest Loser.
hey, thanks a
Oh,
lot. Thanks a lot, man. That hurts. It's too soon, Booker. That really hurts.
we do have two unemployed losers hosting this podcast, Senator.
Yeah.
So you're not
Listen, I
wrong.
don't I consider him Benedict Arnold. He left me. He left me when I needed him most. Did you
Yeah.
see? We had a 50-50 vote. JD Vance had to come in and break the vote. If you were here, we would have defeated that bill. If Montanans had sent you back, they would still have full funding for their Medicaid programs. If Montanans had sent you back, Meals on Wheels, SNAP, all the provisions that help people, they would still have that. If Montana had sent you back, we wouldn't be racking up trillions of dollars of deficit. So, yes, my friend, you are not hurting. It's not too soon for you, it's too soon for me.
Well, now I have to include all of that in the podcast. Sorry, Senator, that we've already started here. So let's formally introduce Senator
No, why
Cory
formality? This
Cory
guy,
Booker.
he was my best friend in the Senate. He
So,
was. She's
so
dead
here's
to me now.
Here we go. All right, Senator, introduce us to your friend. You do
All
the
right,
job.
he's
You
not
do
my
no,
friend.
no,
He's
I'd like
not
no.
to
my friend.
introduce you
He's
to
not my
Jon
friend
Tester.
anymore.
Former Senator Tester.
I would like to introduce you to Jon Tester. He's a farmer. He was a great patriot. He was probably the most significant guy in the United States Senate. He's responsible for everything from the PACT Act to sound agricultural policies. He fought big corporate conglomerates. He fought people that tried to tell you couldn't even fix your own damn tractor. He was one of the voices for the people. He was a guy that brought people together in the middle. All of those things Jon Tester was before he betrayed me and left the Senate. Who am I? I'm his sidekick. I'm the Robin to his Batman, the Hutch to his Starsky, the Squiggy to his Lenny, That's who I was. But
So we are
There's,
already off the rails because I wanted Senator
there's,
Tester to introduce Senator Booker.
there's,
But go ahead.
no, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. The only thing that you said that was true there is that you're squiggy. That's the only thing you said that was true. Okay.
But I'm Squiggy without his Lenny. I'm Squiggy without his Lenny. I'm Abbott without his Costello.
I just want to introduce him as this. So any of you people that don't know Cory Booker, he's the greatest All-American football tight end to ever come out of Stanford. Okay. Okay. As a senator, he's passable, but as a tight end, I mean, he was absolutely incredible. The hands of the hands of Chopin. I mean, the guy could play piano. He can catch footballs.
Maritza, you're the one person that needs to be introduced here. Like, we don't know who the hell you are.
Oh, okay. I'm Maritza, and I am the co-host of the Grounded podcast. I was a former anchor with Scripps News until we got laid off, and now I'm one of
What is
two.
going on with the all-out attack on the media? And
Oh,
then big media companies kowtowing to Donald Trump, literally writing him millions of dollars worth of checks because they want to have mergers. It's like the worst. It's one of the darkest chapters in American media.
yeah, it's
True.
scary. It's really sad, and we're seeing layoffs just across the board, and so many talented people, and then they end up like me, and we go into this world of podcasting or Substack, and a lot of people are moving to independent media. So I don't know what the future holds for journalists, but for right now, we
But
have,
the truth is, Booker, of this duo, she's the brains and I'm the eye candy. Okay. All right.
that's true.
All right.
I think she might be both. And I think you're nothing but a guy on a tractor.
But he brings all the swear words. He brings all the good swear words, and I know
I,
you know about
I,
that. So
I
Maritza, are you
seldom,
from are you from Montana?
I'm not. I'm from Minneapolis, but I've lived in Montana for 22
And
years.
where are you right now? I know where he is.
Missoula, Montana.
So you are in Montana right
Yeah, I'm in Montana, and I was just telling him I'm coming to, well, you're in New Jersey, but well, I'm coming to New York in a few weeks. So I have to get my big city fixes here every once in a while now that I'm
now.
laid off.
And who's the puppy in the back?
Oh, that's just a piece of art. But I
what
do
the
have a
hell, what the hell kind of a podcast is this? Booker's
hey,
asking all the questions.
hey,
Okay.
I do have a real
You
puppy
got
over here, but she'll probably bark soon.
We are
Listen,
fostering a
Tester, we
puppy.
ought to get to know each other, okay?
I would
Yeah.
like that a lot. We're fostering
Booker,
a puppy right now. I've never done this before.
Booker,
Oh,
you got to stop. You got to stop, Booker, because I got a very important
all
question
right.
to ask you.
We'll have coffee, Senator, when I'm in DC or New York, and then Tester doesn't have to listen to all this. So, Tester,
Okay.
you want to start us off with a
But the
question?
last
Yeah.
question, who is the candle right there?
Oh, that is Mariska Hargitay, one of my heroes, and I just watched her documentary last night of my mom Jane. It was fabulous. Oh my gosh. I love Mariska Hargitay. So that's who's on my candle.
I mean, she's an extraordinary actor,
Yeah.
artist, but I did not know she had a podcast.
So no, no,
Not a
she
podcast,
is
a documentary.
her mom was Jane Mansfield, and it's just this incredible, it's just so moving and touching and complicated, and it was an incredible story. She's done so much for women, and she's just amazing. Okay,
Now, Do
Senator
you do you,
Test.
do you get Tester to watch? He has time now. He should be streaming all
No.
the things he couldn't, all the things that didn't make him culturally literate. He can now begin to do.
Okay, so he has not seen Star Wars. I'm a Disney nerd. He has not seen Star Wars still.
You, Maritza, you were not alive when Star Wars came out in 1976. Tester, however, was. What's your excuse, man? Everybody was there. I was there. I was 6, 7 years old watching it in the movie theater.
I haven't seen it. Okay. Cut me some slack here.
I
Let's
know
talk
Slack.
about it. Let's talk about something that every person wants to know. How long was your filibuster?
Oh, I could tell you that.
I'm asking
25
Booker.
hours and 5 minutes.
25 hours and 5 minutes.
I gave you a whole day to get back to the Senate and keep me going.
I didn't make it. And so the real question here is, Did you hold the floor the entire time, or did you give it up to anybody during that 25 hours and 5 minutes?
Well, you know this, that you're allowed to be interrupted for questions. So I was interrupted from time to time with people asking me questions, but I did not give up the floor. I
Okay.
only
So
yielded for a question.
when they asked you questions, did you sprint off to the bathroom?
No,
He can't do
I
that. That's against the rules.
it is against the he knows this stuff.
I
He's
know he
actually
does.
I'm just asking. Okay, I
And you're
just want to
admitting
know.
that you didn't watch it because
Huh?
I saw people ask him questions.
thank you
Yeah,
very
but
much,
here's the
MC.
deal. Here's the deal, and it has to do with being alive. If you're an animal, is it you have to go to the bathroom at some point in time? Okay.
So Tester, what I did is what I tried to get you to do back in the day is I fasted for 3 days beforehand and I stopped drinking liquids 24 hours beforehand to stop myself from having to go to the bathroom.
So you
And
didn't like,
how would not let's talk about this. You start okay, but when you get dehydrated, you lose your ability to remember shit.
What the symptom that was getting me was in the third hour, my feet started getting really numb. Like, so the circulation wasn't working. And then eventually my hands started sort of the muscles started cramping up and I started getting the sort of muscle cramps.
But your jaw muscles never did cramp up.
Clearly not. Clearly not.
Okay.
Those are the strongest muscles now. Back when I played football, there were other muscles far stronger. But now, as a senator, you develop the ability to project a lot of hot air.
okay, so you did not wear any devices that helped you with that. No adult diapers, no catheter, nothing. That was just
I
all.
the thought of like relieving myself on national TV was just not an option.
Yeah, I
It
think
was
that's fair.
Yeah, it was just not an option. I couldn't get through the block of like what that would mean. It would have been too
And the
embarrassing.
face and all of it. Yeah, the face. Okay, so did you did you do you remember all 25 hours and 5 minutes? Or are there parts that are like, because I have conversations where I don't remember a certain part. Do you remember all of it?
I will tell you this, like the body has limits, but the spirit has doesn't. By the last 4 or 5 hours, it was amazing to be in that energy and the whole Senate floor. The gallery was full. I was getting incredible notes from people because there were literally hundreds of millions of likes on social media, and I felt everybody. But then I'll remind you, and Tester knows this, that as much attention as I got for 25 hours, the reality is somebody right now is on their second or third shift at a diner. Somebody right now is been in the hospital on their feet doing a full 24 hours, doing some of the more humbling jobs in America in service of somebody's health and well-being. Firefighters that go out and get dropped by jump out of planes, get dropped to fight fire. Their shifts are 16 hours long, and they're fighting real hellfire. So it definitely was something I had to hack and think creatively about how to stand for 25 hours and speak for 25 hours, not to go to the bathroom. But I'm very aware that there are Americans who, through their jobs, because of the needs of their families, they work 2 and 3 jobs. They work sometimes around the clock just to put food on the table and keep an apartment or a roof over the head of their family. And so we should acknowledge that.
It also makes me think about what I just recently read about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man who was deported to the CCOT prison in El Salvador. And I read that even, at night they would be forced to kneel, and if they fell over or fell asleep, they would be beat. And so I'm sure, even that is, standing for 25 hours to talk is nothing compared to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of hardship going on in our country. What's horrible about that story is that we denied a human being due process, something that our founders understood should be afforded to everybody living in our country. Conservative justices have said everybody deserves due process because when you erode the due process of one, you really erode the due process rights of all.
There's no doubt about that, Booker. But I'm going to tell you something that's even worse than denying the due process, and that's that nobody in the United States Senate, besides a Democrat, has ask for any investigation into what happened in a fucking El Salvadorian prison that the United States is paying money to keep these people there. Nobody on the other side of the aisle is saying, hey, let's have an investigation and find out what happened. This is taking away basic human rights and treating people like animals. I mean, this is unbelievable to me, Booker. This is unbelievable. What
Our
what the
taxpayer
hell is
dollars.
going on back there? What's going
Our,
on?
and Abrego Garcia may be back, but to your point, John, there are hundreds of people we've sent there. We already know from intrepid journalists that dozens of them committed no crime when they were here. And so they are in a torture chamber, which Maritza just described, by our tax dollars, sent them there with no due process. And that should plague the conscience of everyone in our country, that we have a president that is that is executing that kind of cruelty, human cruelty, and violation of human rights.
It's one thing for the president to do it. It's another thing for Congress to turn a blind eye and say, you know what? By not having any sort of inquiry, by not having any sort of investigation, they're saying they're fine with this.
But that's the thing, John. The Congress right now, which is a co-equal branch of government, the first of the three branches of government, which is supposed to give checks and balances and oversight of the executive, they're laying down all of their authority. John, what constitutional authority are we truly exercising when we don't do advise and consent? You know, our Republican colleagues had problems with Hegseth and others, but they just lay down to unqualified people. Are we doing investigations on, let's call it Signalgate, where battle plans were no, not one Senate hearing on that? Are we having Senate hearings on the tariff policy, which is hurting people from where you are to where I am, all across this country? Not one. I could go through all the things that we're doing not to provide any kind of check and balance. And perhaps the biggest one, John, is just our budgetary powers. Like
Yeah.
we're about to surrender. We've already surrendered by doing a 6 month CR. I've been here for 14 years, and I've never seen a continuing resolution done for 6 months that wasn't bipartisan. This was just rammed through by the White House. Republicans just went along with it, and now the president has extraordinary spending powers as well. So he's got the power of the purse. He has nobody that's doing investigations or oversight to his actions, and his advise and consent. They're putting people in that I know because Republicans talk to me just like they talked to you when you were here and tell me that they have to hold their nose and vote for a lot of these cabinet secretaries.
I want
Well,
to ask about that. Sorry,
go ahead.
Senator Tester.
Go
I,
ahead.
I
Go
want to
ahead.
ask about that. Like, does the Senate just inherently feel different today than it did when John left? I mean, does it feel different, or is it still? Because when I was there and I shadowed him, my very first time shadowing him, I was amazed at how people got along in the hallways and talked, and they really like came together behind closed doors.
Well, so first of all, you have to know this about Jon Tester and I. We're so big that it's hard not to be in the shadow. So like walking with us is just being shadowed or but John now has again this show. This would be the most popular podcast in America if you just told people how you lost 55 pounds. You're holding back the you should do a how you should do a special on Congress people and senators that lose weight. It's a multi-billion dollar industry and you're not telling anybody your secrets.
We
Top
gotta
five.
switch this. Holy cow, we gotta just switch our whole focus.
Anyway, I'm just a little bitter because he left here, lost 55 pounds, and handed them to me because of all this stress. Yes, the place feels different. It's more stressful, it's more painful, it's more heart-shattering when you see what's going on to people. And I feel like Tester, I don't know if you were like this when you were here, but I feel like I'm an outpost. I got farmers from the Midwest and Texas coming to me about their, a lot of things that you and I put in the farm bill. Funding people shifting to using different agricultural practices. They outlaid for the equipment and everything, and then their grants are held back, and now they're threatening to lose the farm. So it's just like it is a different place, and the Republicans know it. There's a meanness and a cruelty going on from the White House that doesn't comport with I think just the common decency of Americans. And this is the frustrating thing. There's an old saying: the only thing necessary for evil to be triumphant is for good people to do nothing. And I'm not passing judgment morally on evil or not, but I do think it's immoral when you cut food for the hungry, immoral to cut healthcare for the sick, immoral to cut services for the disabled, or support for our seniors, or structure and resources for our vets. But so I know there's people like when just USAID, John, when we cut the resources for people that were on the front lines of fighting infectious diseases, or places like Sudan, where literally people have died because the United States of America hasn't stood in the gap to help people in the worst humanitarian crisis. All these things make this place feel different. This is definitely a dark chapter here in Washington.
So Booker, you touched on what was in the big, beautiful bill. It was pretty damn ugly. Big bullshit bill is what I call it. But, and so we don't need to go over that. Healthcare and denying poor people food and all that. But where are we going from here? I mean, where are we, where's this country headed right now? I mean, we don't support democracies anymore. We've pretty much told Ukraine to take a hike that Vladimir Putin's more important than democracy. We don't support due process. We borrow money to give tax breaks to not just the rich, but the people who are so fucking rich they got more change in their pocket than most people are worth. What where are we going as a country and where does it stop? Or does it stop?
So look, I know we've seen darker days in our 250-year journey than this. And I tend to often be a prisoner of hope in the sense that, you know, in this horrific time where a lot of Americans are either being hurt or on the verge of being hurt, that maybe even in this we can find something and find something within ourselves. That even when all this hellfire comes, where so many people are being hurt, there's something that can't be seared away. And maybe it's an activation moment where more people are going to get engaged and realize that this is not who we are and we've got to fight. So, John, my biggest thing is I think we're in dark times, and I think that some of the worst is still to come. But I also think that perhaps this is maybe the point where the pendulum swings as far as it possibly can, and that somehow Americans are going to see where we are and realize that we've got to pull things back. We got to swing back towards decency. We've got to swing back towards we the people. We've got to swing back towards away from fear and hate and more towards courage and loving your neighbor. So I'm banking the next few years of my life on this belief that this darkness is setting us up for a time of redemption where we can redeem this nation, redeem the dream, the American dream, and somehow find ourselves 5 years from now with a more just and beloved country.
And I think you're right. I think it's going to happen with one exception, and I want to know your opinion about this. What about the election 2026? Is it going to be a fair election?
I mean that's what I worry about. And I can't tell you with certainty that it is, but I can tell you with certainty that we have faced more unfair elections in the past. I mean, I'm doing some writing for a book right now, and I'm just pulling from history, threads from history to try to inform us in this moment. And I mean, the kind of things they were doing in the post-Reconstruction period and the kind of things they were doing, John Lewis, who you served with, who was trying to march for voting rights at a time where all kind of games were being played, and yet we were able to win elections in the 60s and create a Congress that could actually right wrongs. So even with any kind of election sort of corruption, which we're already seeing, you and I both know it, the worst election corruption of my lifetime has been made possible by things like Citizens United that allow billionaires to play in elections in ways that I think pervert and corrupt our democracy. But I think that still the power of the people will always be greater than the people in power if we decide to fight like we did in the 60s for greater justice. So I'm not going to downplay any of the threats to our democracy, but I am going to remind people that, this is not an excuse to like surrender to cynicism about the process. This is the time to fight to make sure that the outcome is right, no matter what they do.
Going back to the votorama, I mean, was there a point throughout that you thought the Democrats might succeed in shutting it down? Like, I really kind of was waiting for a John McCain thumbs down moment that never came.
I was still holding out hope because they were negotiating with Murkowski through the night. They were negotiating. They even called Rand Paul in there, to try to get that vote. So there was no certainty. And so, as I said, I'm always a prisoner of hope. I'm gonna always work as if everything's up to me, but pray for a miracle that something could be done. But we didn't get that miracle, and then it bounced right back to the House, where I thought there'd be more of a fight. But all the Republicans who were all full of bluster, like the Freedom Caucus, who talked about this bill being, they use words like immoral to rack up trillions of dollars of debt. They just fell in line more quickly than I imagined. So this is a time where there's just too many Republicans who don't share the values of this bill, whether because they're fiscal hawks or because they're Christian evangelicals, where this bill is everything that they say they disagree with, but yet they fell in line. And John, you know why they fell in line. It was something that Jefferson said. He said when people are afraid of their government, there's tyranny. When the government's afraid of people, there's liberty. We have a whole bunch of House members who are afraid of their government. They're afraid of their president. They're not afraid of the people. They're not afraid of the people in their districts. They're more afraid of what Donald Trump and will do to them running. You saw what they did to Tom Tillis. They saw that model and they said, if I stand up and tell the truth and vote my conscience, I'm going to be attacked like Tom Tillis was, and I won't be here in the Senate or the House of Representatives. I mean, that's a sad thing I always say that purpose is more important than position. I watched Jon Tester. Let me just tell the truth. I watched Jon Tester take some really awful votes for his politics, but he took those votes because he believed they were the right thing to do. He took really bad votes for his politics, but he took really noble votes for his patriotism. And he said to me, I can't remember what it was, John. I think it was one of the big bills we passed together under the last Congress. And you said to me, I'll probably lose because of this vote. I probably won't be able to come back, but it's the right thing to do, and I stand by it. And I can't tell you how rare those kind of words and statements are in the United States Senate. And that's one of the reasons, despite all his flaws, why I love that guy.
I
And
have
if you
one
look at
more.
his, I hope people are not watching this or not just listening. You need to watch this because Tester has these camera angles that, only like people that are like 90 years old and older, like they get. He's like talking to like my grandmother as if she was, like I'm seeing I could count his nose hairs, I
Well,
could
because he needs to be able to hear it, so he puts it up to
he
his
puts
ear. Yeah.
his ear up
Yeah,
against it.
you're lucky. You're lucky the cameras are looking down my ear canal. That's what you're looking
I do have one more question about this
Hold
bill.
on, but I still can't get over how thin his face looks.
And
I
the goatee.
and a goatee. He really wasn't that much to look at before. Now he's got a downright interesting face. And
at.
and I'm wondering, like, again, how can I do that when I stay in the Senate?
I have a theory, though. I mean, when I was there, we snuck into your office, Senator Booker, to try to steal candy. I think we
Listen,
did steal candy. So I have a feeling that is a contributing factor.
listen, this guy is always sneaking into my office. I felt like my staffers loved him more than they loved me. It was very
For good
frustrating.
reason. For good reason. Better guy.
Okay, so one more question on this bill, then we'll move on to a tester question. But I like with the effective dates, I've had so many people ask me, like, well, what is this? Is this final? Is this it? Is this over? And we know some of these effective dates are kind of staggered out, like 26, 27, 28, 29. Is it if let's say Democrats retake the House and Senate, in 26. Is there any way to undo some of this?
No,
No.
not in the short term. There would have to the Democrats would have to win big in 28, have the Senate, the House, and the presidency to be able to undo this. What is the biggest transfer of wealth from the bottom 40% to the top 40% in my lifetime? Like the richest, it literally was robbing from working class, struggling people and giving to the wealthiest. And a lot of the things they use and that Donald Trump is trying to say, like no tax on tips, these things are capped. Those are capped. A lot of people who are paid tipped wages, most of their salary, in fact, could come from tips, but now that's capped to at a certain amount. And so it's not a big windfall, and those are temporary. Those weren't made permanent. All the big things for the wealthy corporations and the wealthiest American, these things were made permanent, but the kind of things for a working people like overtime, those things are capped. And so that's the cruelty of this bill, is it gives out the candy right now, heading into the 26 midterms. A lot of the worst things don't take effect until right after the 26 elections, like some of the harshest cuts to healthcare.
So, got any more questions on the big beautiful bill,
Well,
Marisa?
you know, I always have a lot of
I
questions.
just want to understand, why is Maritza, she's kind, she's gracious, because she actually shuts up. She like asks the question, she gets her answer, and then she pauses for you to jump in.
She's trying to,
You,
she's trying to
she has to
distract
muscle in to get onto the
Booker.
microphone with you.
Booker, if you look at some of our previous episodes, she walks on me all the time. So, that's the
Hey,
way
I'm
it is.
Greek. It's what we do.
Yeah, it's the way
Oh,
it
you
is.
didn't tell me you were Greek.
So that's right. So
Uh,
let me
uh, do you
let's.
know
I
anything
want to go.
about, have you been to Greece, John?
Yeah.
Can,
Oh
can
no,
I go? God damn it! I want to go a different direction. Can I go a different direction?
Do
Okay.
you know any Greek words like moussaka?
So before I left, you were elected to be the person that was in charge of getting the Democratic message out. Now, I may have misquoted on that, but
You did misquote me. That's not technically my job, but keep going.
that's so what the hell are you doing? Because I'm not hearing any goddamn message coming out. Okay.
Well, first of all, let me tell you what my job. Let me give you without not a succinct description, but like the last election, I don't know if you know this, but Kamala Harris won Americans who read newspapers. She won Americans who were high informed on the news. Where she got shellacked was Americans who get most of their news through their digital devices, which is where the majority of our voters now get their devices, their
That's
news and
right.
information. And so we were seeding that field, not just the presidential candidate, but senators as well. The Republican caucus had tens of millions of more impressions, they call it, than we engagements and impressions than we did. And so my job was to try to get this number, the number of people we were reaching with our digital content, up significantly. And so I want to tell you, we've now surpassed the Republican caucus in terms of online content and engagement. We've more than quadrupled the amount of engagement that the senators, the 47 of us, get. We have some people that have become downright digital influencer stars, like Mark Kelly, that other bald guy from New Jersey, who he's from New Jersey, by the way, but he's now the Arizona senator. And he was 4 days on TikTok and was getting millions of followers by using that platform, millions of people engaging with his content. Most of America knows he sold his Tesla because he had a viral video about him selling his Tesla. So I'm literally on Thursday lunches, like teaching and coaxing and showing people how to do a different way. And now, if you look at some of our former colleagues, from Mark Warner all the way to Chris Coons, you're going to see people using front to camera, creating more content, getting getting on YouTube, getting on TikTok, getting on Instagram, and I'm really proud. We have a long way to go. The second part of that, though, John, is engaging with the influencers that are already on those platforms and creating a democratic ecosystem as well. And so we're really working with a lot of digital influencers and more. I've got our puppy here, guys.
We've
Oh,
got
I
a
see that.
This will help get more likes. Our puppy. You want to get on the podcast?
Oh,
You want to get on the
hi.
podcast? Hey,
Who is
hey.
this? What's his name?
His name is Cook. It
Oh.
rhymes with book. Um, um, and Cook is a foster. We're fostering Cook. You can adopt Cook if you would like, and we're fostering for like a week.
Are you
And we pick
going
him
to
up from.
foster fail though? Because this is the thing. You fall in love with a dog and you foster fail.
I know. Definitely my significant other here. She has had some very emotional moments letting go of
Oh,
the puppy she fostered. But this little guy is so cute.
he is so cute.
What's that? Wolf Trap Animal Rescue is the place here in close to DC. It's in Virginia actually.
Oh, he's
And
adorable.
yes. Okay, you want to go to mommy? You want to go to no, you want to lick my face. All right.
You can't call her mommy if you guys are not going to keep her. That's mean.
Okay, foster mommy.
So I got one last question, and then since I'm about done with this field, we're gonna have to let you go probably,
Okay, that's
unless Marisa
exciting to
wants to
me.
ask you questions
I have a
for the
ton
next
of
hour.
questions. Yeah, you can't cut them off yet. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna relay a conversation that I had with a guy yesterday. Okay,
Yeah.
he said, "Look, this big beautiful bill is a pile of crap." He said the Republicans are gonna wear that. He said they've taken away due process. They put tariffs in it, which is the largest increase on the American people in the history of this country. And he said the list goes on and on and on. But I have no confidence in the Democrats winning back the House or potentially winning more seats in the Senate, potentially even winning back the Senate. But the House is there. What do Democrats have to do this next election to win?
Um, so you know elections are far more granular than these national elections. Like, John, you outperformed Kamala Harris in your state dramatically. So did Sherrod Brown. And for the first time since I've been in the Senate, it only happened once before with Susan Collins, where we had four senators win in their states and states that the president of the opposite party also won. So that's a pretty significant thing. So when people say the Democrats and they paint with a broader brush, you can't say that when you have candidates like you, frankly, who belied the Democratic Party and outperformed the Democratic Party brand in your states because people knew you. Um, and so like, when you have Slotkin and Gallego and Tammy Baldwin can win, it shows you that that honestly that an individual candidate with the right strategy communicating to their district or their state can win. And I'm confident that there's a lot of people that are going to be fighting in these purple districts, where the House districts that swing back and forth. That their folks. I was just reading about a guy in California where the majority of his district relies on Medicaid. The majority of his district. He voted against the health care of the majority of people. I'm sorry if you or I running against him, even though we're not from California, could probably take that guy out, just exposing what he did. And so I'm not going to talk about national messaging because you and I both know Montana messages aren't New Jersey messages, New Jersey messages aren't Montana messages. But I have a lot of confidence in the people that are going to run in 26 in their ability to do two things that are vital. One is provide a vision that they have for leadership that's going to make a difference on the issues that people care about: housing, healthcare, the cost of living, things that they can tangibly do as congressperson or senator to make a difference. And then the second thing is just to point out the obvious, which is how bad this president has been for your family's economics and your family's well-being. And so I think we're going to win on that. I think we're going to win back the House. And John, I think we pick up North Carolina. I don't know what Susan Collins is going to do, but if she decides not to run, we pick up Maine. I don't know if you're watching Texas, for example. I feel like Charlie Brown trying to kick the football down in Texas a lot and getting it pulled out. But if Paxton beats Cornyn, this guy who's a convicted felon, I think on multiple counts, already our potential candidates are polling above that guy. And in a state right now that's already seeing what happens when you don't have all the resources you should have, to prevent the kind of tragedies that are going on right now. My heart is breaking watching what's going on down there. And there needs to be investigations to see if not having a staffed up NOAA and disaster response contributed to the deaths. People should be held accountable if that's the case. So there's a lot of things going on around the country that I think puts us in a good position for good candidates to win over people that have betrayed their own districts or their states.
Well, I hope that's the case. I mean, look, I mean, I think you're right on everything you've said. I do think one of the big mistakes that was made last cycle, whether it's Montana or Ohio, but more nationally, is that the message wasn't there. I mean, the message was don't vote for that guy because he's bad for democracy, which, by the way, was an accurate message. But it wasn't a message that people took to the polls and voted on.
Yeah.
They, the healthcare, housing, inflation. That's another one. Why isn't anybody talking about inflation? As you know, in my real life now, I run a farm. And I got to tell you, things are markedly more expensive this year than they were last year. Noticeably more expensive. But I'm not hearing anything about inflation going on. I'm not hearing anything. I mean, gas prices aren't $1.97; they're about 2.30 here. But the
What?
question is
Really?
3.30. I mean,
Oh.
3.30, three
I
thirty.
was about to say,
Like what?
I'm going to drive out there just to fill up my tank.
Yeah, well, you need to being from New Jersey. It's a short trip. It's only about 38 hours, so don't worry about it. It's good. But
Okay. Yeah, no, I think you're right though, Senator. I mean, that's all we heard about going into the election is
yeah,
into November, egg prices and grocery prices.
everything. Man, I'm going to tell you, go buy a 100-foot roll of copper wire. Jesus Christ, you're going to have to take a loan out at the bank to buy it. It's so damn expensive. It's crazy what stuff costs now. It's just nuts. A
And
lot of it
and
has to do with this tariff bullshit too, by the way.
yeah, and you're seeing it, honestly, you're seeing it in Donald Trump's numbers. The trust people have with him handling the economy. Do you feel like your family's doing better economically or worse? These numbers are, he's just underwater. And, do people agree with his tariffs underwater? Do people agree with his handling of healthcare or Social Security underwater? He is the most unpopular president we've had in a very, very long time, maybe with the exception of when he was in his first term. And you and I both know that that portends, foreshadows some really bad things happening in a midterm election. And so, yeah, we're going to get better and better, I think, as we get closer and closer to November of next year in driving that message every single day in every single way. And you remember the 2018 elections with how much we swept the House and regained control. And so, again, I'm not keeping anything for taking anything for granted. In fact, I'm putting a lot of pressure on my staff and I to be better messengers, to find more creative ways to cause good trouble. It's one of the reasons why I stood for 25 hours. It's one of the reasons why just a few weeks later we did a sit-in on the Capitol steps from sun up to sundown, just trying to drive the message home of what this guy is doing. All of us need to be thinking, whether it's participating in a No Kings March, whether it's raising content or conversations like this one, sharing them. We all have to say, when's our limit? And have we crossed my limit? Was it a cross of my limit when this president used this tariff policy that tanked my 401k and raised my prices at my dinner table, at my family, around my family kitchen table? Was it enough when he violated due process rights and was going after not criminals, but the people that pick crops in the field or the people that do some of the more humble jobs here? Was it enough when this man butchered free speech rights, where he brought law firms to heel because of who they represent? Like, where's your line? And I'm hoping that more people right now, not waiting for next year's elections, will start speaking out like you were at the beginning of this podcast, where you're just like, this is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. And this is one of those moments that's about patriotism. It's where do you stand? You can't let your inability to do everything undermine your determination to do something. If you're just a bystander, if you're just a spectator right now, when you see your democracy going wrong, then you're part of that wrong unless you stand up and do something to make it right.
Are you currently planning another event that will get the kind of attention that a 25-hour speech will get?
I don't know if it'll get the kind of attention, but we are planning some
Ah,
unorthodox things. Yes, we're continuing to work on what we can do to try to again wake folks up. I spent today for the book. I interviewed a woman, amazing young woman, Jennifer. She was 9 years old. She rolled up to the Capitol steps in her wheelchair during the American with Disabilities Act, jumped out of her wheelchair to show how inaccessible it was, crawled up the Capitol steps. Her action became international news. And within just a few more months, the ADA, the American with Disabilities Act, passed. It was stalled in Congress. But her creativity, her courage, brought people's attention squarely onto what was going wrong. It was like those 9 people in North Carolina that thought up of a new idea. Why don't we sit in at these lunch counters and try to protest that way? That new creative protest galvanized people's attention on these segregated public accommodations. It's the creativity that people used in the AIDS crisis, where the president of the United States was refusing even to talk about this disease. And these people found creative ways, from throwing ashes of their loved ones on the White House lawn to the AIDS quilt. This country's Alice Paul in the suffrage movement, this extraordinary young woman from the great state of New Jersey. Nobody had ever protested in front of the White House. And she and a group of other women called themselves the Silent Sentinels, stood in front of the White House holding up the president's own words, his own hypocrisy about democracy, and galvanized a nation. And ultimately, that president joined them to support suffrage. This is one of those moments where we all have to consider ourselves creative artists of activism. What can we do to prick the consciousness? Because most Americans don't agree with this president. The problem is most Americans aren't doing enough. We all need to do more. And when people started challenging me in January, February, and March and said, "You're not doing enough," and I would try to make excuses like, "Oh, we're not in the majority." They were like, "Are you an American or American't?" Like, stop making excuses. If you want us to do more, you should do more. And so we said, you know what? They're right. We've got to figure out new ways to break through and to get more people energized, ignited, excited about the fact that they too can make a difference. They don't just have to sit back and watch this president destroy our nation. They can do something about it. They're more powerful than the president themselves. The power of the people is greater than the people in power. It always will be in a democracy. But if the people don't use their power, don't exercise their right to petition their government, their right to free speech, their right to protest, if they don't exercise that power, then yeah, authoritarian leaning people will always take advantage of them and erode their rights. I watched a conservative guy on online on my digital device say he'd never seen this happen before, where we had advanced towards giving people more health care, and we've now just eroded it and made things worse. Where we've advanced rights like reproductive freedom, and now we've eroded it back. We're seeing this right now, something that's kind of unprecedented, at least in the last 75 years, of America's making strides to give people more security, more health care, more freedom. And now we're seeing a president who is undermining that, undermining freedom of the press, undermining freedom of speech, undermining the freedom to represent who you want to represent as a lawyer, undermining academic freedom at our colleges and universities, undermine our ability to access health care, undermine our abilities to feed our families. And so this is a real test. America is not tested really by the authoritarian demagogues, McCarthyism and Father Conklin. We're not, the test actually isn't the hateful or demagogic or people that want to use fear to exploit us. The real test is, what do we do in the face of them? Because every generation has them. Every generation has had these people that have stood up and tried to undermine our democracy. So look, I'm happy for my friend Jon Tester. He's like Cincinnatus. He returned to his plow. But the problem is, Cincinnatus in that story, he defended Rome first. He won the battle and then he left.
oh man,
Tester Tester went back to his plow, and I'm here now getting my butt kicked. Tester,
he's
for
still
crying out loud.
under that
Hey, look,
tractor.
let's just be honest, Booker. If you'd have campaigned a little harder in Montana, I'd have probably lost by a few more points. Okay.
Tester, I offered to get you the black vote. I
Oh,
offered to get the black vote in Montana for you, man. I told you I would come out and get all 14 people to vote for you. But you didn't have me come out this time, Tester.
I do
I
have to
know.
ask about this bromance because before I watched the Jane Mansfield documentary last night, I rewatched Senator Booker's farewell speech to Tester. It was incredible. It was hilarious. It was moving. Well-deserved jabs, I will say now with confidence, being Jon Tester's co-host. I wish I could have seen Tester's face though in like response to that entire speech. But I'm just wondering, Senator Booker, like, did you ever file formal charges against him?
You know what? What you do when a senator does wrong, when he commits a felony before the eyes of everybody. It really was like assault and battery. You give that senator a choice. You could stay and face the charges, or you could retire and leave. And he decided to retire and leave. And I have a restraining order. I have a restraining order against Jon Tester right now.
Oh, then this doesn't
So,
violate it. Oh, that's great.
No,
Maritza,
there's enough distance between us right now.
Maritza, you wanted to know what I looked like when Booker was giving his speech about me?
Yeah.
I was at my desk in the Senate chamber weeping, which is what I usually do when Booker talks, you know?
Then you should have watched all 25 hours, man. You could have had a real cry.
I'm going to tell you, my two brothers tag teamed and watched the whole damn thing. And they were actually pretty damn impressed with you, Booker. I squared them away after they told me that. But hey, they thought, and by the way, I will just tell you this in all seriousness. I'm glad you did it. I think it was something that had to be done. Um, and I'm glad to hear that you're planning some other stuff that may be out of the mainstream to try to draw people's attention because it's not easy to get people to focus on what's going on back there. They think everything's. I talk to so many people say, yeah, things are screwed up in Washington, D.C., but it's always screwed up in Washington, D.C. I'm not going to worry about it. It's fine. Yeah, well, it's a little different this time around. And the reason I say it is we haven't lost due process in previous administrations. We haven't seen the kind of trade wars that are going on. Now, there was happening in his first one, but this is beyond the pale. And the income gap, the giving tax breaks to rich people, put it on the national debt. The list goes on and on. Anyway, I'm talking too much,
Wait, no,
especially too
I
much.
have one more question about the speech though. Did you guys really break into Dylan's house, Tester's chief of staff? Did you really break into his house? Because I went to college with
No,
him.
you
Okay,
misheard it. They broke into my house.
I did break
Oh.
into his house, but there's no evidence of it. I wiped down the prints. But the reality is, I was running for president of the United States, and I needed some place to do like a video or something like that. And Dylan's like, like my guy has like 20 friends running for president. We don't want to implicate him. I'm not even going to ask him. Let's just break in. And as soon as he said break in, I'm like, I'm down with that. So
Yeah.
we utilized for my presidential campaign his kitchen, and we never told him until after the statute of limitations passed. And now I felt comfortable letting him know that I used his kitchen, took a nap on his bed, drooled a little bit on his pillow during that nap.
Full Goldilocks. Full
Full
Goldilocks
Goldilocks,
experience.
No,
full
no, no. I'm
Goldilocks.
going to tell you that I knew that Booker had broken into my house because all the vegetables in my refrigerator had been eaten. The meat,
And
the meat
all the
was all
meat was
still
left
there. The
there.
veggies, the lettuce, the carrots, the celery, the broccoli, all gone. Booker ate it all.
That is a question I have though. I mean, like, have you ever shared a vegan meal with Jon Tester? Because
I tell you
I'm a
what,
pescatarian and he gives me a lot of hell for that. Okay.
I tried to get him to do this crazy diet with me that Penn from Penn and Teller did, that lost 100 pounds and kept it off.
Just potatoes?
No, just for 2 weeks.
Oh,
Then you
okay.
stick to it. But it was an amazing experience, I have to say. But the long story short, he told me where I could take my where I could what I could do with my potatoes. Let's put it.
Oh.
He told me creatively what I could do with, and I've never heard of a potato being used for the purposes of which he suggested before.
Yeah, I'm gonna make him go to my best friend's house in Hawaii and she's just gonna feed him her vegan dishes for a
I
week
would
and
say
we'll see what
something, but
happens. Yeah.
the proof is in the pudding. The guy is he's disappearing on me.
Yeah, look at that. Okay, my last question for you, Senator Booker. Easy one. What color is your dream house?
What color is my dream house? I have been in public life for 20 plus years, and nobody has ever asked me what color is my dream house, unless you're talking about one that is white.
I'm trying to be creative here. You know, I asked Tim Walz where his rescue animals would be happier living in Minnesota, the governor's mansion or the White House. So I have to come up with a creative way to ask you.
Well, I'm running for re-election in 26 to the Senate. That election is in 28. I will come back on this podcast after my reelection and talk to you about my 28 plans. But first things first, is Tester got any money left in his account to give me a campaign contribution for my reelection? I am shameless. I'm
I,
asking my friend
Well, then
to.
you
I,
have to subscribe to our
so,
Substack
so
first.
let me be clear about this. And sorry, I'm not looking at the camera because I'm wrapping this field up. But what I will tell you is this, Booker. I think I've got money in my campaign account, but unfortunately, my chief of staff has been keeping it from me for 6, 8 months now. And my former chief of staff. So if you want any money, I'm not saying I would give you any, but if you want any money, I got to get access to that fund.
I will talk to Dylan. He's a fellow bald brother. I will talk to Dylan.
Now, I didn't mention his by name, but you did, so you know.
Very
I'm
well.
calling Dylan out on this national podcast. Yes. In fact, it might be international. I don't know if you guys have any, the Greek,
We
the
do. We
Greek.
have a Greek contingency. Yes,
Well,
we
I
do.
want to say to all the Greeks, Eferisto, Eferisto. Thank you very much for watching as well. The cradle of democracy.
Close,
Okay. Well, we
close.
just so appreciate. I mean, I want to talk about your guys' friendship all day. It's hilarious. I love it.
I miss him. If he's a real friend, he wouldn't have left me.
Does he call you when he goes back to DC at least?
I just hear these stories that he was like, it's like Elvis. He's back in the building. I hear lots of people. And the great thing about him is it's not like fellow senators telling me. It's people that work in the place, that keep the place running, that do the humble, vital jobs of making the Senate run smoothly. They're the ones that come to me as if they're telling me that, like, I'm Batman and that the Riddler has just come in. It's like, it's the Joker. Hey, Batman, be careful.
But like there are moments, right? There are genuine moments where you thought, man, I wish Jon Tester was here.
No, you have no idea. You have no idea. The moments, literally, if Montana had given us him back, we would have saved healthcare. We would have saved Medicaid. We would have saved food stamps. It's just like once people don't understand the power of one senator. And the other thing about Tester, as much as I don't like him, the reality is his ability to stand in the center of that place and stand for sanity at a time that the wingnuts are having their way. That's deeply missed.
Well, thanks, Book. I appreciate you saying that. I didn't know you. Did you take up drinking?
And the other thing is there's a physicality to my relationship with Tester, and the fact that I could hit him. Like I can't hit other senators. I can't
Yeah.
start at one end of the hallway and get a head of steam going and just ram into him and have no consequence for that. Like I just miss he was the one guy that made me still feel like I was playing football, where every day I got to bang my head against other people and get out all that aggression. Now it's just getting pent up. I got nothing to do.
Gotta go
Yeah,
back, Tester.
it's a rough life, but I'm going to tell you on the other side of the equation, Booker. I miss you every day. Miss you every single day. I do. I mean that. But I'm sure and shit glad I'm not back there to watch that shit show. I'll just tell
Yeah,
you that.
yeah.
It's crazy. And I'm going to tell you, I cannot figure out why. And you talked about people saying they give up their political career, but there are certain things worth giving up for the
Yeah.
sake of this country. There's no reason to be in Washington D.C. if you're not worried about making sure we have a democracy for future generations. If that isn't the first thing on your mind, upholding the Constitution, making sure that this country is around for our kids to have opportunity, our grandkids. If that's not on your mind, then why the hell are you there? That's the question. Why are you there?
Amen. Amen.
Crazy. But Booker, I appreciate you coming on our podcast. It's always good to see you. I'm glad you kept the lights down low in your office so that we didn't get the glare off the dome. But But
Well, as I said in my farewell speech, I don't like you, Tester, but I do love you, man.
yeah, all right, baby. Back at you. Take care. Keep New Jersey nailed down, and we'll see you soon enough. Okay.
All right, Maritza, you're welcome to my office anytime.
Thanks, Senator Booker. I'm coming
John,
to get M&Ms.
okay, good, good. All
My
right.
God.
All
Thank you, everybody.
right. Bye. Oh man, you got like how did you ever get anything done with him?
Did, but
You
it's
did?
good. He's a good guy. He's in the business for the right reasons.
Yeah,
That's a fact.
he's and very entertaining and very knowledgeable and yeah, I mean
Yeah.
I didn't plan to watch that whole filibuster and I turned it on. I think I was like at hour 18 and I turned it on and I basically wiped off my calendar for the rest of the afternoon. I couldn't look away. Like I had to watch him finish and see what time he finished at. So
You need to get a life.
yeah, tell me about it. My whole life is this podcast, Substack.
That's it.
Okay, so what was I going to ask you about? Oh, let's talk about your hat, and then I want to let our viewers and listeners know about how they can help flood victims if they're looking for ways to help. So you go ahead.
So I'm wearing my work hat. Hang on here. I got to take a peek, see where I'm at. I'm wearing my work hat, and it's the guy I buy insurance from uh, in Great Falls. Yeah.
Well,
And
good. That's
I
important.
take it off my head and show it to you. The problem is that I couldn't keep my hand on the steering wheel, and there's auto steer on this tractor, but I'm finishing the final round, so I'm
We don't
yeah,
need
kind of
we
scared.
don't need you to have any more farming incidents. So you just keep your
That's
hands on
right.
the wheel. That's good.
Okay, I will keep the hands
Okay,
on the wheel.
so there are
Yeah.
so many ways to help out with flooding victims and people in Texas right now. And I mean, there's so many different areas you could donate money to, or time, or effort. You know, from Salvation Armies to World Central Kitchen. But I am going to put a full list on our Substack in this episode, so people can link. You know, I'll link to those. All of those efforts that are vetted, and it's a good way to help. You know, I think so often people want to do something when news like this happens because it feels so helpless, so hopeless. And I know, especially for parents, when you hear about news of other children, you can't help but think about those parents going through that and what it must be like to just wait for news. So we send all of our love to everyone who is in that area of Texas who's waiting for any kind of information or news, and we will post links to that, like I said, on our Substack. And I think that wraps up this banner. I mean, I think we could have made this a 25-hour episode if you wanted to, but we're
Yeah,
gonna
we could have done a filibuster, and but we didn't. So it's good. At
okay.
any rate,
Well, thanks to Senator Booker
tally
for
ho,
joining us.
gotta go.
Bye, Senator Tester. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
You can find us on
Bye bye.
Substack, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube. You can also shoot us an email at groundedpcast@gmail.com. And thank you so much to all of you for listening and to Pearl Jam for letting us use their music. Have a good one.